Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. So most of this is going to be sort of extra additional information about the kind of Roku cover reveal and other stuff that's happened in relation to that. First of all, the non-Roku information is just about Avatar and Fortnite. Apparently some of the kind of typical leakers, data miners are saying that there is an update coming to the game on Tuesday, meaning that in the files of the game, we probably will be able to see what all the Avatar stuff is on Tuesday. But of course, we know from news like yesterday, the day before, that it's actually going to be April 12th when the Avatar event, I think, kicks off. Again, next week we will know much clearer the exact details of everything. So this will help you, of course, to prepare in terms of like, hey, if you want to get all the Avatar stuff, a lot of them are just going to be in the item shop, so you'll be able to, I guess, figure out just how many V-Bucks you need to get everything. So right now we don't know what the details are, but we'll know by Tuesday what's happening with the full extent of Avatar and Fortnite. So, moving into Reckoning of Roku stuff. So, the reveal that Randy Rabai was teasing that was going to happen today is just that, yes, as part of the kind of cover reveal, it's pretty much just that, like, the official Avatar account, the publisher and stuff like that are just more kind of highlighting the book now that it has its cover. So, you know, sure, it kind of would have been cool to have this all kind of happen at the same time rather than just people gradually finding the listing that went up like the day before. But this always tends to happen with the publishing stuff. It just never seems to be lined up as cleanly as it should be. We're always finding out information about these things from listings before the like official reveal. But yeah, pretty cool just to see the kind of book kind of mock-up here to just highlight kind of what it's going to look like. But of course, we know what the cover is. We of course have the release date here, so 23rd of July 2024. Exciting stuff, obviously. So no real extra information when it comes to them just doing the kind of standard reveal of this. We already had the cover, of course. One thing we did find out, though, is who the cover artist is for the Reckoning of Roku cover. So, Xiao Tong or Xiao Tong on Twitter posted about the reveals from yesterday, saying that, hey, that's my art. I didn't know that they announced this already, but hey, I did the cover art for Reckoning of Roku. The story is super interesting. I think those interested to know more of Roku and Sozin will love this. So that the and Sozin bit is particularly interesting because we know he's going to be like in the book to a certain degree because he sets, it seems like, Roku's mission into play about the island. But I'm guessing, for us to learn enough to where it's a significant thing for the artist in the book that Sozin is in this, learning more about him. I guess that means we learn quite a bit about Sozin, maybe early on in the book. Maybe we actually get quite a few scenes from Sozin's perspective. That could be something quite interesting in the book to just see, like, what is going on. Like, Roku leaves, he's doing his Avatar thing in his early training and then on this mission about the island. But what's Sozin doing while all of this is happening with Roku away? That could be an interesting thing. So just a little detail there. But the most interesting thing about this artist, of course, is that also the artist for the Avatar in Concert image that we got. So that was a cool little connection there and reveal. So interesting to see a kind of the same artist be used for multiple different kind of projects. So really cool stuff there. And again, we assume that this will be the same artist for Roku Book 2, which again hasn't been confirmed, but I assume we're getting a second Roku novel. So it'll be interesting to see what the next one is like. Which then brings us to the last piece of information, which is the most significant one here. And that is that if you look at the listing for this book pretty much everywhere now, the cover, of course, is here, but the description has been changed. It's now more detailed. We've lost, I think, a few little bits, but it's mainly kind of added more details in. So just to highlight here that, as you can see here, it starts with a quote, and there's clearly different kind of wording on a lot of this here. The older description, as you can see here, starts off with a young Avatar Roku has just commenced his training, whereas this one is Roku never expected to be the Avatar. So let's get into this here. I have it open here. So we'll go through this, of course. Here's the old description. So because it's been a while since I've gone through this, let's do a little bit of speculation here on the book. So the old description is, a young Avatar Roku has only just commenced his training at the Southern Air Temple when his erstwhile friend Prince Sozin requests his aid in preventing the Earth Kingdom from claiming a remote Fire Nation island. Now, I'm guessing part of why they changed this is just the weird kind of what tense are we using here when talking about this here? Because erstwhile basically means like former friend in this case. Whereas it's like 16-year-old Roku is still friends with Sozin, and it's a bit weird where like, because we know that this is a friendship that falls apart, it's kind of weird the way they're talking about this. Whereas, of course, all the books that we've had about the past avatars so far are not necessarily viewed as flashbacks, it's just that we're telling the story of them when they were teenagers. So I'm guessing they just wanted to make that clearer, which they do in the newer description. So I think that's just probably for the best to change that. Despite his inexperience, Avatar Roku slips away with the help of an irritating young airbender named Gyatso. As the reluctant companions delve deeper into their wayward mission, they begin to realize that even greater threats lie ahead. Plagued by self-doubt but eager to prove himself, Roku fights for his life and the lives of others, while ensuring that the hidden secret of the island doesn't fall into the wrong hands. So, you know, it's actually quite a long paragraph here to just get across the idea of like, he teams up with Gyatso, they investigate the island, and of course the stakes are high. A lot of this is kind of like, okay, self-doubt, prove himself, he's gonna fight for people, hidden secrets of the island. Like this, it feels like there maybe should be a little bit more detail. So I think you can tell that this is definitely probably from just an earlier draft when maybe the full book hadn't been like fully written. It was a little bit more general, a little bit more broad. Searing fifth installment in Chronicles of the Avatar series explores the beginnings of Roku's journey from privileged Fire Nation noble to a powerful but indecisive Avatar whose hesitancy may have ultimately paved the way for the 100-Year War. And even this is kind of like mostly referencing what we know of Roku rather than necessarily what this book is about. So we'll see what the new one says here. So we start off, of course, with a quote. "Curse a world that would provide a friend only to snatch him away." Roku never expected to be the Avatar. So the assumption here with this being the Roku novel is that this is Roku like thinking this, that like, I finally have a friend, and because I'm the Avatar, that's sort of been taken away from me. Now, it's kind of interesting to maybe think about this. What if this is Sozin thinking this about Roku? Like Sozin finally has a friend or something like that. Someone who he cares about, and that's been taken away from him. That could be an interesting angle on it. It really depends on what exactly they're going to do. Potentially because they're going for a little bit of an arc of like Roku maybe not being the most confident character here as we're getting kind of through with this, and we see that from, I think, young Roku even in 306. I think it would maybe make sense that like Roku kind of surprisingly ends up a close friend of Sozin, and so he feels that his being the Avatar has taken away like one of his few chances to have a proper friend, and it's going to be about, I suppose, him meeting Gyatso, finding a new friend there, and kind of finding his confidence or something like that. But I like the idea of this, that this is kind of part of what we're dealing with from that kind of emotional perspective. But anyway, Roku never expected to be the Avatar. Even his best friend, Crown Prince Sozin of the Fire Nation, doubts the accuracy of the Fire Sage's announcement. After all, Sozin is the strongest firebender of their generation, while Roku struggles to grasp basic airbending principles. Even after months of training under Sister Daisha, not sure about the pronunciation there, Disha? His airbending master. So a lot of stuff going on here. Just the idea of Sozin being like, kind of in a way, really? He's the Avatar? Like, in a way, is he skilled enough to be the Avatar is sort of the idea here. And again, it's kind of playing into the idea of his confidence in a way of like, Sozin's clearly the more powerful firebender. Shouldn't the Avatar be more on that level? While Roku's, of course, struggling moving on to his second element. And so is the idea here that he hasn't even done any airbending yet, or just that he is still at a beginner level in airbending? That's interesting from the book perspective in terms of like, Are we going to have an avatar who basically has a foundation in fire and air? Or is it going to be fire only with him gradually learning air? Which is a kind of interesting one, because I'm guessing they might do some sort of a thing where Gyatso, him becoming friends with Gyatso, helps him to kind of unlock his airbending. That feels like a pretty cool arc that they could do just on that side of things. So yeah, new character mentioned here. So his airbending master at the Southern Air Temple is going to be Sister Daisha. Which is interesting because his training, we know from 306, is in the Southern Air Temple. And again, the old description specifically says Southern Air Temple. So they have to kind of keep that aspect of it here. So it's interesting because, of course, the breakdown of the air nomads is that it's typically the monks in the north and south, and then the nuns in the east and west. But of course, there's always going to be crossover. It's not that they're banned from visiting the other one, of course. But just interesting that the Avatar is specifically being trained at the south, and they're, in a way, bringing over, or there just is there, you know, this female air nomad who's been tasked with being his airbending master. Now, I wonder, like, what the reasoning maybe behind this is. Is she actually, like, the most skilled air nomad? Or is it, like, she's got the mix of skills, but then also the ability to, like, teach him some of the more kind of political things in terms of being, like, an Avatar guide type thing as well? I kind of wonder what that is, but part of this might also just be that a lot of the main characters in focus here, in terms of Sozin, Roku, Gyatso, male characters, might be one of your few opportunities to have a kind of notable female character here. So that's that might be the kind of reasoning here, but still interesting to see how this character actually is. There's a little bit more of a mention of her in a second here. When Sozin requests the new Avatar's aid in preventing the Earth Kingdom from claiming a remote Fire Nation island, it doesn't surprise Roku that Sister Daisha advises him to decline. So straight away, it's this idea of he is a new Avatar. He's only a couple of months into his training, finding out that he's the Avatar, and suddenly Sozin is asking him to kind of intervene in a political kind of affair between nations. And of course, I guess his first, like, advisor, basically his first teacher here, is going to advise him to be like, probably not the best, given how inexperienced you are, to immediately jump into a major dispute like this. So will be interesting to see the details, like, surrounding how she goes about kind of explaining this to him, what his actual thoughts are on this, because I'm guessing this is where we're going to get into the idea of he's a Fire Nation noble, so he might be kind of more biased than you'd maybe expect of someone of their nation towards the Fire Nation, and might immediately be like, are you going to be fair to the Earth Kingdom in this situation? But interestingly, they are saying it is the Earth Kingdom trying to go after what is stated to be a fire island. So, you know, the dispute seems to be the Earth Kingdom is at fault. So does it matter if Roku is helping his home nation here? But you wonder what exactly the situation actually is. So, convinced the Earth King's aggressive expansion of territory points to a more insidious agenda, Roku steals away with the help of an irritating young airbender named Gyatso. As the reluctant companions delve deeper into their wayward mission, they realize the fog-shrouded island harbors a secret that could lead to catastrophe in the wrong hands. And then, plagued by self-doubt, but eager to confront the dangers ahead, Roku must learn where to place his trust, and what it means to be a spirit of no nation, even if the lesson comes at a great personal cost. So some of this, you can see, has just been kind of reworded slightly, where, like, it has the plagued by self-doubt bit, but they replace sort of the more generic fights for his life and the lives of others, hidden secret of the island, with more of an idea of the island specifically is fog-shrouded. What does that mean? It harbors a secret that could lead to catastrophe, whereas here it's just a secret that doesn't need to fall into the wrong hands. So that's an interesting one. But the specific thing here is, of course, they actually highlight some kind of political stuff of, like, the Earth King. Now, if we bring in the RPG information here, I'll immediately alert you to, in the Roku era, we have the Night of Silenced Sages. So if you haven't read the RPG, you might not know about this, but you can see what it says here. When Roku had only just begun his journey to master the four elements, which is where this book is set, only just begun. So this event should either be happening, or it should have already happened, is going to happen during the book, or is just about to happen, kind of type thing. The Earth Kingdom experienced a seismic change no one dared acknowledge, the end of the Earth Sage order. The Earth Sages were weakened, and so basically the idea is that the Earth King of the era, Earth King Jaelun, changed the constitution and then sent out daily agents to round up the sages so no one opposed him. As we go kind of through this, let me just scroll down a little bit to the Earthbender section. So yeah, you can see here, Earth King Jaelun. It mentions here, he did away with the sages. So that means he is the Earth King in this book, because this event is happening concurrently basically with where we are. So it gives you a sense of the idea. Jaelun is a petty, calculating man, continuously underestimated because of the bureaucratic nature of the Earth Kingdom. To outsiders, he's a ruler trapped in the binds of an ineffective system which fails to empower people. But Jaelun knows he is the spider spinning the web. After he did away with the sages, he manipulated the system to his benefit, and the incompetence he portrays is entirely by design. He keeps people subjugated and ruthlessly removes any opposition to his rule, all from an appearance of weakness. Internationally, he manipulates others to keep the people in the Earth Kingdom focused on threats from outside rather than within. Jaelun is likely to contact heroes if they have anything he wants or something he can exploit. If they cause enough trouble, they're likely to encounter the Dai Li first and Jaelun second. The Earth King is never one to overplay his hand and always approaches a friend first to entrap a person in his schemes. So, interesting presentation of the leader of the Earth Kingdom at this point in time. But here we see that he's actually being somewhat aggressive in expanding into different territory, which is interesting because the Roku era in the RPG is, I believe, set when he's 28 years old after he's finished his training. And you see that the Roku era at that point gets defined sort of by this idea of nations arguing over sort of disputed territory. Whereas here, we're seeing the kind of first potential example of that coming into play here. So this could be like an era-defining kind of type thing, as potentially like the first time we're going to see something like this happen. The other interesting angle to this is, of course, the world leaders in play here is that like it's Crown Prince Sozin. So who is Sozin's father, the Fire Lord? We don't know the name of this character. Surely we are going to get that in the book and characterize who that is and how strong is the leadership of the Fire Nation. And then in a way, how much is maybe what's happening here Sozin beginning some plots of his own, basically, is sort of the idea here. So that's fine. And so the idea is he eventually gets on this mission and somehow meets up with Gyatso. He finds him irritating, but they go off together on this mission. It's a wayward mission. Fog Shrouded Island, what exactly does that mean? Like, does that suggest, like, you know, waterbenders involved here? Or is it just that, like, the weather here happens to be foggy? I don't really know. A secret that could lead to catastrophe. It's still very general, very broad in terms of what that could possibly mean. And because they have surprised us with these books, like, I think with the Yang Chen first novel, like, I don't think any of us really called combustion bending until it actually was revealed at the end of the first book. So they could do a little bit of kind of anything here. I'm not sure we have any real idea of what this potentially could be. So he needs to learn where to place his trust and what it means to be a spirit of no nation. So kind of in a way, learn to be the Avatar, learn to be neutral among the nations. And because he is a noble, he's maybe inclined towards the Fire Nation, but he has to, of course, learn to value that this is one of the things he learns over the course of his journey. This is what is said about him as a fully realized avatar in the RPG, is that he is a wise avatar who keeps balance in the world quite well because he lived with all of the nations. He had the proper training of spending years with each nation. So he knows what it is like to be a part of each of the nations. And so we kind of have to see that here of like him stepping out of the Fire Nation for the first time, learning about the different kind of things going on here. And then they're maybe suggesting the idea of like he needs to maybe trust himself and his own view on things if he wants to become a good avatar, but also maybe advisors giving him good or bad information, and what does that say about like who's going to be around him, directing him where to go. And this even gets into the idea of like Sozin, like his prince, telling him like, do this, but then his avatar advisors being like, no, but then he has his own opinion. Like there is some interesting stuff happening here. Great personal cost. Is this maybe one of the first times maybe we see Sozin and Roku at conflict with each other? Because depending on how this goes, the setup is that Roku just has to stop the Earth Kingdom from doing something bad, which shouldn't cause an issue. But if maybe the Fire Nation is wrong in what they're doing, that definitely creates a bit more of an interesting dynamic. But as we've just been through with the RPG, Earth King Jaelun seems to be a bit of a scheming character in terms of what's going on here, and he's getting aggressive. So that's interesting. What is his agenda going on here? And you know, there's interesting stuff. I assume they'll mention the Earth Sages at some point during all of this, and then you have to keep in mind that like there's other interesting stuff from the RPG that we probably do expect to be mentioned. So like obviously by the time we get to the RPG, Sozin's the Fire Lord, so the RPG doesn't mention who Sozin's father was. It'll be Fire Lord Sozin's father here, so that'll be interesting. But then also Princess Zaysan, are we going to get some details on her in all of this? Because that's where, like, I forget the exact details of it, but the stuff with Sister Ryoshan is, I think, more recent. So this would be, like, 12 years before that. So it could be an interesting thing where maybe Roku's experience with the Air Nomads here sets some of those things into motion in the Fire Nation. That maybe report comes back, he maybe at some point speaks to Zaysan, and she becomes interested in Air Nomad teachings, and this kind of maybe starts the trend of kind of what goes on to happen from there. And you're maybe looking out for some of those characters there as well. So if I bring this up again, the Air Nomads are at the start of this, I believe. Yeah, Air Nomads of the Roku era. So, Udron, we have here Chondro, Ryoshan, Gyatso, of course. But again, this is, like I said, 12 years after this book will be set. There's some interesting stuff here. Again, it does feel like some of this stuff is very much the Roku era of the RPG, and it might not be fully in place here, but we have to get to that point. But the idea is that, like, say, Udron, if he's an elder in this era, probably should still be an elder for Roku's era. So I would definitely recommend, if you have the RPG, Avatar Legends RPG core book, give the Roku era a reread if you want to get up to speed with some of the ideas being tackled in the era, even if it is a little bit after where the book is going to be set. So that's really all I have to say here. Like that we at least get a little bit of information, even if it mainly is just the whole sister kind of Daisha thing here. It's interesting. A new character, Airbending Master, like another character to add to the list of, like, because we went in 306 Avatar and the Fire Lord, we went with like, Gyatso is my friend, Takukak trained me, Sud trained me, but who trained him airbending? Who trained him firebending? Like, we don't know those things, but now we know who the airbending master is. But it might be some combination where, like I said, Gyatso is going to have a bit of an arc of his own. So, like, they did really well with Kavik, and Rangi in the previous novel kind of series. So we'd expect some good stuff from Gyatso as well, a young Gyatso. So exciting stuff. But in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on the news that I talked about here. Reckoning of Roku. We have most of the preview stuff we're probably going to have. It's still probably going to be like 2 months until we get the first excerpt, like sample chapter, audiobook sample. Probably the only other info that we might be waiting for is, are we getting a new audiobook narrator? Because of course we've had Nancy Wu for the first 4 books, but now we've changed author, we've changed cover artist. Are we going to change audiobook narrator as well? Especially because all of a sudden we've switched to 2 female avatars to now male avatar. And it seems like a majority of the characters in the book are going to be male. So maybe we'll get a male narrator this time out. We just have to wait and see. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. But that has been the video. Thanks for watching and bye.